So what I wanted to take a look at today is the brand new Monster Hunter Wilds game that came out just about 2 weeks ago. This is one of my most anticipated games of the year after playing a lot of Monster Hunter World, and I just want to share my thoughts on where I think it stands up in the series and as a game in 2025. We'll be looking at some of the graphics, some of the gameplay, and some of that core loop that you've known to expect from the Monster Hunter series. Now, I know I'm maybe a little bit late to the party with this, as I know a lot of you will have had this for over 2 weeks now and will have absolutely grinded the game to death, but I want to take my time going through the story, unlocking that higher rank before I put this video out with my initial impressions. So, let's start with the elephant in the room, and if you watched any video about this game, the graphics have probably come up, so let's take a look at them now. And I've got to say, for a game that's released in 2025, I just do not understand what is going on with these graphics. At first I thought it was my TV, but then checking out some of the other videos, I've realised that a lot of people are having issues with how this game looks. Now, as you can see from the cutscene playing in the background, it's clear that Capcom had a vision on how they wanted this game to look, but when the game goes back to actual gameplay, the two just don't match up. It's miles apart. Character animations and the monsters that we'll take a look later on do look really nice, and these have been done very well, but it's the actual worlds that let this game down. And just touching on the frame rate, things in the distance are rendered at a much lower FPS. There's a scene in the game where you're riding around and they're trying to point out points of interest, but even stuff that's about 20 metres away looks absolutely awful. Honestly, don't know how Capcom managed to agree to push a game out in the state that it's currently in. Now, when the game goes back to actual gameplay, you can see just how bad this game really looks. This is meant to be the same environment that was shown in the cutscene earlier, but as you can see, it doesn't look anything like it, and it really breaks that world that they're trying to build. As you can see from the trees in the background, everything has this sort of dark, murky look to it. There's no depth to anything. It's like the world's shrouded in this fog. Nothing really pops. There's no colour differences. It's really difficult to make out things in the distance. I've seen some of the videos suggesting that you should play around with the HDR settings and the brightness settings of this game, but I've tried all these and I just cannot get this game to look any better than it does at the moment. I think most of the footage being shown on YouTube at the moment is most likely from PC. I tried downloading the benchmarking tool, but I couldn't even get it to load on my 5600 XT. I've also seen that a lot of people are having issues playing this on PC, even with the higher end graphics cards, so if you're thinking of picking this up for PC, it's worth doing your research before and seeing how this game plays with your setup. I'm playing this on Xbox Series X. It's on a 55-inch TV with HDR support with no VRR. With that, you get 3 main quality settings. I started off playing this with the balance preset, but thought the graphics looked that bad that I tried the resolution mode. Now, the resolution mode is an improvement, and it is at a 30 FPS, but I don't really think that hinders the gameplay as much as most people would like to think. I haven't even bothered trying the frame rate mode. After trying the balance mode and realising how bad it really looked, I couldn't sacrifice any more resolution, even for that bump in FPS. Comparing this to Dragon's Dogma 2 that was released last year and also running on the RE engine, I think this game looks far worse than that one did. Now, it's not to say that Capcom won't patch this with a later update, but at the moment this game is just not a good looking game. I think I've said all there is to say about the graphics at the moment, so let's take a look at the story, but unfortunately, I'm sorry to say, this doesn't fare much better either. The story is there to act really as an extended tutorial, introducing you to some of the mechanics, but it's mainly forgettable, and at times it was downright boring. I found myself just wanting to get back out there on the hunt and find a new monster to kill, so I could get those materials to upgrade my equipment and armour. I could barely even tell you the main gist of the story, and although the voice acting is very good at times, the script is absolutely diabolical. It feels so out of place for a game that's focusing on killing monsters for parts to upgrade equipment. Now, with everything I've just said, you probably think I absolutely hate this game, but that just isn't the case, because the gameplay is where this game really comes together. I doubt many people are playing these games for the story or the graphics alone. Core gameplay boils down to a loop. You're hunting these different monsters, collecting their parts, and then using these parts to upgrade your weapons and armour, which then allows you to hunt even stronger monsters. It's this constant loop and progression that keeps you engaged and really want to push and grind for that next level. Since Monster Hunter World, Capcom have done a really good job of making these games a lot more accessible to the mainstream audience, and that still holds up here with Monster Hunter Wilds. That's probably why the story mode and the low rank hunting takes so long to complete, taking me nearly 14 hours. But then that unlocks the higher rank, and this is where this game completely changes mechanic. After hitting this level, this is when the world really opens up and they start pushing that open world mechanic. This is where monsters roam in and out naturally, and it's up to you to decide which ones you want to take on. There's 14 different weapons to choose from in this game, and each one has its own style and gameplay. It's almost like choosing a different character in a fighting game. The core game stays the same, but the way you play is different. Every one of these weapons has its own combos that you'll need to learn if you want to become truly proficient, and each one has its own upgrade paths. It'll take you absolutely hours to unlock if you want to unlock all the late game weapons. This goes back to that core gameplay loop of hunting monsters and unlocking new equipment and makes the game so addictive. There's never a shortage of anything to do, from hunting new monsters, learning new combos with your weapons, and then upgrading those weapons to the highest level. Now, we spoke about the graphics earlier, but the animations on these monsters are absolutely fantastic. There's nothing better when there's a full team of 4 wailing on the monster, trying to bring it down, and all the damage is building up and affecting the monster in different ways. It really does steal the show. The new wound mechanic that they brought into this game shows damage building up on the monsters over time. You then attack that wound and break it, breaking parts of the monster and affecting it in different ways. You can see from the footage in the background how the whole team is trying to work together to try and bring this monster down. There's very few games like this. There's very few games that bring the co-op gameplay together as well as this one does. It's so easy just to jump into a multiplayer game with the SOS flare mechanic, where you can just go on a list and pick out a monster that you want to hunt with a group of people that need your support. Even if you're playing in solo, you can use this to call in 3 other hunters that are controlled by the computer. This is something that was lacking in Monster Hunter Worlds, and it adds to that accessibility of this game. The game just does such a good job at making every hunt feel epic. Whether you're playing online with friends or offline, I'm sure you'll have a fantastic time. Now, I know I spent a lot of time in this video talking about how bad the graphics are and how bad the story is, but this is honestly one of the best games I've played this year so far. That core gameplay loop of hunting, crafting, and then hunting again just really keeps you hooked. It's one of the most addictive gameplay loops that I've played in a long time. Even if you've never tried the series before, or if you've been thinking about getting into it, I think this is a really good starting point. I'd encourage you to pick this game up. I can't see any other game in the near future that's going to pull me away from this. For those of you that have already bought this game, I'm sure you're having an absolutely fantastic time hunting those monsters and pushing to that next level of equipment. But for those of you 2 weeks later that's still thinking whether they should play this game or not, I think there's 2 points you should really take into account. First point is how long people are really going to be playing this game for. And after 2 weeks, there's still a lot of hype around this game. But I can assure you that Capcom are going to support this game for a very long time. We've already got Street Fighter 6 players complaining they're not pushing out enough content for Street Fighter 6 because they're focusing all their efforts on Monster Hunter Wilds. Capcom are absolutely notorious for pushing out content for these types of games in the forms of limited time events, and if there's anything like Worlds and Rise, I won't be surprised to see a full expansion for this game released in the future. The second point that I take into account is that Capcom are known to put their games on sale not long after release, or maybe into Game Pass at some point in the future, but with the sheer amount of content that's here just at launch, it really is worth the asking price. So there you have it. There's my honest views on Monster Hunter Wilds shortly after launch, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope this has also given you a good idea on whether you should pick the game up or not. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, give it a thumbs down if you didn't, and please leave any comments in the comment section below.